All right, so are you ready to dive deep into the world of Loki?
Oh, absolutely. I've been looking forward to this one.
The Norse god of mischief. We've got these excerpts from mythology.net and Wikipedia, and
Yeah.
it just seems like there's so much to unpack.
Yeah, he's a fascinating figure for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
both sources kind of paint him as this,
Yeah.
revered god, but also this trickster, this
Right.
almost like a disgrace to the Aesir in some ways.
So who is Loki? Like, how do we even begin to understand this guy?
Well, he's often described as handsome,
Okay.
charming, cunning, a master shapeshifter,
From Master Shapeshifter.
able to take on any form he desires.
So that seems to be like a
Yeah.
key element of,
Essential to a lot of his myths.
yeah, to a lot of his stories. It's interesting that even his name might give us a clue
Oh, how?
about his nature.
Well, the name Loki, it could come from Old Norse words meaning knot or tangle.
Oh, so he's literally
Yeah.
tying things together.
Mythology.net even suggests a link to the word for making fishing nets. So literally like tying things together.
So it's like a warning sign right from the start.
Yeah.
Like, watch out, this guy's trouble. And then
Trouble with a capital T.
and then you look at his family, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
His family is quite a wild bunch, isn't it?
I mean,
don't-
his father's a giant.
Yeah, which already kind of puts him in this
Right.
ambiguous position.
Among the Aesir.
Among the Aesir, exactly.
And then you've got his siblings, like Hel, the goddess of the underworld,
Right.
Fenrir, the giant wolf.
Destined to kill Odin during Ragnarok.
Oh yeah, let's not forget about Ragnarok.
And Jormungandr, the world serpent.
I mean, talk about a dysfunctional family.
It makes you wonder, right,
Yeah.
if all of that kind of contributed to his
Yeah.
personality.
His outsider status.
Yeah.
And his need to disrupt.
Exactly.
And then there's the whole Sleipnir situation.
Oh, yes. How could we forget Sleipnir?
Odin's eight-legged horse, which Loki gave birth to.
It's quite a story how a shape-shifting god ends up giving birth to Odin's horse.
How do you even explain that one?
It really highlights Loki's
Yeah.
fluid nature,
Yeah.
his ability to transcend boundaries.
Speaking of shape-shifting,
Yes.
there's that story from mythology.net about Loki turning into an old woman
Oh, yes.
to trick,
Frigg, the goddess of motherhood.
ultimately leading to the death of her son Balder.
Yeah. That's a bit more than mischief, wouldn't you say?
That's not just a harmless prank.
No.
This is like serious stuff.
Balder was the god of light and purity,
Really?
universally loved.
So why would he do that?
Well, some scholars suggest it was jealousy,
Jealousy.
resentment of Balder's popularity. Others believe it was more this primal urge to disrupt,
To just shake things up.
to introduce chaos into a world that seemed maybe too perfect,
Too perfect.
too predictable.
Yeah, like he needed to remind everyone that even the gods are going to suffer.
Right, exactly. And of course, there are consequences for his actions. Both sources describe his punishment for Balder's death. He's bound to a rock
Oh, yeah.
with a serpent dripping venom onto his face
Eternally,
for all eternity.
which, by the way, is also said to be the cause of earthquakes.
Oh, wow.
It's
So-
like,
So even in his punishment,
yeah,
he's causing chaos.
he's affecting the world.
Exactly.
It's interesting, though, that both sources also point out that, as much as Loki causes problems,
Right.
he also often helps solve them.
Yeah, he cleans up some of his own messes.
At
At least tries.
But
to-
can't help himself.
It speaks to that duality
Yeah.
in his nature. He's not just purely destructive.
Right.
There's this cleverness, there's a resourcefulness.
So there's more to him than just being this,
Yeah,
Marilyn.
he's a much more complex figure
Okay.
than he might initially appear.
So speaking of complex,
Yes.
we have to talk about the Lokasenna.
Oh, the Lokasenna.
Epic poem.
It's basically an ancient Norse roast battle.
I mean, it's hilarious, even the little snippets that are included
Right.
in the
Yeah.
sources. But is it all just Loki being a jerk? Or is there something more to it?
You have to remember, this is a society where honor and reputation are paramount.
Oh,
So Loki's insults aren't just random
are
jabs.
calculated.
They're carefully chosen to expose hypocrisy.
So it's like social commentary.
Exactly. He's using humor and satire.
Loki as like
Yeah.
a truth teller.
The rebel who dares to speak what others won't.
Okay, so maybe there's a method to his madness.
It seems there is.
Like he's using this chaos and disruption to force everyone to,
to look in the mirror
yeah, to
got-
really examine themselves and
and their society.
their society.
Yeah, it's a fascinating interpretation.
It really is.
And it speaks to the enduring power of his character. He's a trickster, a troublemaker,
Right.
but also this force for change A catalyst
A catalyst for growth.
for introspection and growth.
Yeah. You know, it's amazing how Loki can cause all this trouble, but also be so clever, you know? Like, both sources mention how much he pops up in all the myths about Thor.
Oh, absolutely.
The god of thunder.
Yeah, it's
like,
it.
he's essential to the story.
Loki's presence is almost necessary to, like, create the challenge in the first place.
Right, so Thor can then be all heroic.
Exactly.
Like that whole thing with Thor losing his hammer, Mjolnir,
Yeah.
and having to dress as a bride to get it back.
Oh, that's a classic.
I mean, that was all Loki's scheme.
It was. And it's not just about the humor.
Right.
You think about those stolen treasures.
Right.
Mjolnir represents Thor's power.
Okay.
Sif's golden hair is a symbol of her beauty and fertility.
Right.
So when Loki steals those things, he's not just playing a prank.
He's disrupting, like, the balance
He's disrupting the natural order.
of the cosmos.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's like there's this deeper meaning behind all his actions. That's really interesting. And then, you know, both sources also talk about how Loki might not be entirely evil.
Right. It's not so simple.
So he's not just this, like, one-dimensional villain.
No, he's much more complex than that.
Is he, like, some kind of anti-hero?
Well, some scholars suggest he might be a manifestation of this trickster archetype
Oh, okay.
that you find in many cultures. These figures, they break social norms.
Right.
They challenge the status quo. They make us question our own assumptions.
So Loki's chaos is actually a good thing.
It can be seen as a catalyst for growth and change,
Wow.
forcing the system to evolve.
Okay, that's pretty deep.
It is. It's a more nuanced way of looking at it.
It makes me think of that story where Thor and Loki journey to Utgarda Loki,
Oh, yeah.
and they face all these impossible challenges.
Right. And it turns out they were all illusions
Yeah.
created by the giant Utgarda Loki.
So Loki's leading them into these situations
Yeah.
where they're forced to, like, confront their limitations and learn and grow.
Even if it's through trickery.
It's like he's constantly testing them,
He's
pushing
stuck.
them to be better.
Yeah.
And we can't forget about the myth of the building of Asgard's wall.
Well, that's a good one.
Because that's how Sleipnir is born.
Right.
Odin's eight-legged horse.
It's ultimately Loki
Yeah.
who makes that happen.
So he's responsible for creating this, like, super valuable asset to the gods.
Yeah. His actions always seem to have these
Yeah.
ripple effects.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad.
Some destructive, some beneficial.
He's like an agent of change, whether he means to be or not.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he disrupts things and then
Yeah.
new possibilities kind of emerge from that disruption.
I keep thinking about that line from the Norwegian rune poem.
Oh, which one?
It keeps coming up in both sources.
Oh, yeah.
Birch has the greenest leaves of any shrub.
Right.
Loki was fortunate in his deceit.
It's a very intriguing line.
I'm still trying to figure out what that even means.
Well, the birch tree, it's known for its resilience.
Okay.
Its ability to thrive in these really harsh conditions.
So it's strong.
Very strong. And the leaves are often seen as a symbol of renewal and rebirth.
So are they saying that Loki, even though he causes all this trouble,
It's possible
that ultimately
Yeah.
he brings about positive change?
perhaps the poem is suggesting that
Yeah.
Loki's actions are ultimately part of this larger cosmic cycle
Of death and renewal.
of death and renewal.
But how can deceit never be fortunate?
That's a good question.
It seems like the opposite.
Well, you know, fate plays a big role
Okay.
in Norse mythology.
Right.
Even the gods are bound by destiny.
Okay.
So maybe Loki's actions, even his deceit, are fulfilling some predetermined role.
Like he's an instrument of fate.
It's an interesting theory.
Really is.
It adds another layer
Yeah.
to the complexity of his character.
So maybe fortunate isn't the right word.
Maybe.
Maybe it's more like necessity.
Necessity.
Like his deceit is necessary. Even if it doesn't benefit him
Right.
personally.
It acknowledges the ambiguity of his character.
It's like this
Yeah.
fundamental truth about the universe.
What do you mean?
There's always this tension between order and chaos. And sometimes you need that disruption
Right.
for growth, for evolution.
Beautifully put. Yeah.
So Loki's not just a villain or a hero.
No.
He's like this reflection of the complexity of existence itself.
He really is, and that's what makes him so fascinating.
You know, it's wild how Loki's story is still so popular.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even centuries after these myths were first told,
Right.
he's everywhere, you know, in books and movies.
Yeah.
Even comic books.
It's that trickster archetype.
Yeah.
It resonates with people.
A rebel.
The outsider.
The one who doesn't play by the rules.
Exactly.
And there's just something kind of charming about him, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even when he's causing all this mayhem, there's this playfulness.
He's got that twinkle in his eye.
Yeah, like he's winking at us.
Like he's in on the joke.
And maybe that's why we kind of root
Right.
for him a little bit.
I think so. We all feel constrained sometimes
Right.
by rules and expectations.
Loki's like this embodiment
Yeah.
of breaking free.
Shading things up.
Yeah.
It's liberating.
It's interesting, though, because both sources emphasize how, even though he's this chaotic force,
Right.
he's still so connected to the gods.
He's Odin's blood brother.
Yeah.
It's that paradox.
Right. Like he's
Or
both
insider and outsider.
insider and outside.
He belongs to the family, but also challenges its foundation.
Like that family member who
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
always stirs up trouble at gatherings.
Yeah. But it's kind of fun.
You secretly love it.
You need that little bit of chaos.
But it's more than just entertainment, right?
Definitely.
He's making us confront some
Sure is.
uncomfortable truths.
Yeah, those cracks, those hidden tensions.
He's like shining a light.
He's forcing us to look in the mirror.
And maybe that's a good thing.
It can be uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but it can lead to growth.
So we've talked about his origins, his personality, all these different myths.
His enduring appeal.
But what does it all mean? Like, what's the takeaway for us?
I think it's about embracing complexity.
Complexity.
The world isn't black and white.
Right.
It's full of contradictions and paradoxes.
And that's okay.
Exactly. And Loki reminds us
Yeah.
that it's okay to question
To challenge, to disrupt,
and that sometimes chaos can lead to positive change.
to growth, to creation even.
And don't forget the humor.
Oh, yeah.
Don't take ourselves too seriously.
Embrace the absurdity.
Exactly.
Wow, what a journey.
It really has been.
It's amazing how these ancient myths
Yeah.
still have so much to teach us.
They really do.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the world of Loki.
The one and only trickster god.
We hope you enjoyed it.
I hope you learned a thing or two.
And remember,
That-
a little mischief
Yeah.
can go a long way.
Indeed.